Call the meeting to order. First order of business is roll call. Member, would you call?
Yes. Well, actually, it looks like you have everybody here except for Deb. You have the entire board except for Deb.
Okay, all right, so we have a full quorum. Our chair did notify both Superintendent Foreman and I believe Lisa when she was organizing the meeting that she's unavailable this week for any board business. She's in the final preparations of the daughter's wedding this week. So therefore, I'm going to stand in as chair for her tonight. Next order of business is approval of the agenda. Is there any discussion? Discussion? Motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
So move. Second.
Further business is public comments. We have some people signed up.
There are two public comments too. Just so everybody knows.
I do want to remind people that public comment is simply for the public to address the board. It's not for back and forth or conversation. Each person has 2 minutes. First person listed is Roy Spalding from Chester.
An emergency meeting just seems to be another way to make it much more divisive. A subject that is really starting to tear the town apart. More and more, just not just our town, all. And to call an emergency meeting when the chair can't be here, and it's obviously known by those who called the meeting that the chair can't be here, creates a very bad. It looks like there's a personal agenda, which more than likely there is. But to do it when the chair can't be here just creates an optic that is not going to look good for anyone. The topic at hand doesn't seem like it would be anything that would warrant an emergency meeting. Emergency meeting generally falls under a personnel issue from what I've seen. You know, it just creates just a lot of extra issues for everybody to have a situation like this. You know, it's in the state's hands. Let it be in the state's hands. If you don't want the lawyer, there's obviously a reason why. Both sides need to be represented. And it would appear by getting rid of the lawyer, you don't want one side represented. And that's really not what the board should be doing. The board should be open, let both sides do its thing. With that said, think about it when the people are coming to you and not happy with how things have worked out. It was supposed to be in the hands of the state, and that's where it should stay, and both sides should be represented. Thank you.
Next person on the list is Stuart Lindbergh from Cavendish.
Yes, hi, I'm Stu Lindbergh from Cavendish. I served on this board from 2014 to 2016, and I graduated from Green Mountain Union High School in 1986. I'm a taxpayer in Cavendish. Last year, my taxes, when my education property tax went up $800, which, you know, you don't think that's a whole lot of money until you add it to the thousands of dollars I'm already paying in taxes. So the subject of an emergency meeting for the chieftains, the name Chieftain, which I like that name. I am a chieftain. The real crux of this for me is the fact that why aren't we having an emergency meeting about the fact that only 25% of the students in this school are not proficient in mathematics? Fully, I have the numbers here. According to the state figures, we are in reading, we are about 50% proficient. So half the students can't read well enough to even study the matter of Indigenous peoples. Now, this to me is really what an emergency meeting should be about. And we didn't have those meetings when I was on the board, and apparently we're not having them now. I would encourage the board and anybody else listening to repurpose and refocus your attention on things that are really matter to a functioning society. Thank you.
Thank you. The next name is Randy Miles from Chester.
Good evening, board members. I too am a little bit puzzled as to why we are here, especially with that. I was told to do things in the hands of the state, and we all had our say in what the state says, it said 75. But lo and behold, I'm going to take one last chance to talk to you members. This word chieftain, some say it's too much energy, we're wasting too much time, wasting too much money. We need to look at another option of this, what the actual definition of that word means, what it really means. To dismiss this word so easily is just so wrong. It represents any and all leaders. We want to get rid of it. This is a word that every race, every culture should be embracing and sharing. It's one of the most important words out there, I think. And we're looking to trash it and remove it so easily. What is really harmful here? Removing this name or leaving it and embracing it? And maybe going with the phrase GM, chieftains, leaders. That explains the meaning, GM, chieftain, leaders. Thank you.
Next name is Martha Mott from Cavendish.
Hi, I'm Martha Mott from Cavendish. My oldest child started school at GM almost 20 years ago in 2004, and my youngest graduated from Green Mountain in 2015. So we spent over 10 years here with our kids as students, and I was also active in the Booster Club. During that time, there were many times when the students could not get fully behind their mascot, the Chieftain. Sometimes it was okay to wear a headdress and paint their faces, while other times it was not. That made it very challenging for the students to fully show their school spirit. I'm not here to say whether using the Chieftain name is right or wrong. My point is that it's been divisive for over 20 years. In addition, so much time, money, and energy has been spent on something that has divided the school community rather than brought it together. Therefore, I suggest that we retire the Chieftain name by having a ceremony honoring its service to the school for all these years, and then hand the baton over to the new mascot, the Mountain Lions, the Green Mountain Lions, something like that. Then the students could cheer on their school with gusto, and the adults could get back to the business of running the school. Thank you.
Next name on the list is Deb Beltro from Springfield.
Hi again. Hi again, thanks for having this meeting. You've heard from me over and over again. I think I'm well stated on record. I did want to just address a few things as this comes to a head of the legal proceeding. First, I just wanted to revisit the fact that the violation actually happened when the school didn't have their own mascot policy on January 1st, in 2023. And that's where the violation first happened. Secondly, I just wanted to address, because we keep talking about how the Chieftain is not always associated with Native imagery and stereotypes. I did just wanted to share that I did do some research, which I'll share with all of you, into every chieftain in the United States in a K-12 school in the history of United States education. There have been 45 of them, and every single one of them has been Native themed, and every single one of them has been tied to negative stereotypes. Over half of those schools are majority white population schools. I will share that report with you in detail. It has a lot of details and a lot of great links to some of the schools who have changed their mascots and the reasoning behind that. I just want to finish by saying that this whole process, no one wanted to see it go this way. I've been involved for 10 years. the number of students I've watched work on this issue. And I'm gonna drop some of their names right now.
It's not till your time is expired.
My time is up.
2 minutes per person. There'll be another public session when you can finish.
Okay, thanks.
Next order of business is new business. Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it okay if I just clarify something? That in the comments, it was declared, it was stated that this is an emergency meeting. This is a special meeting, not an emergency meeting. And it's warned as a special meeting. There's just a distinction in the rules around what type of a meeting, and I want to make sure everybody warned special.
So next order of business is new business. Procedure of obtaining and funding legal counsel to address non-discriminatory mascot policy appeal.
So I'm wondering at first if there's anyone who can provide information about what that process was, like how we ended up paying for a lawyer related to this issue at all. I don't know. Is there anyone here who can provide information on that?
What I can tell you is there is no official procedure for obtaining.
So you're talking about the discussion that happened at the executive session before we had, before we heard from, it was the executive session where a lawyer came and told us kind of about the, I don't know what I can share about the executive session, but
Nothing, so.
but that executive session you're saying is where the discussions happened. Where did the decision happen to hire an attorney to represent the board without the board interest? I have a second question.
So it's going to be difficult because I can't discuss anything that was discussed in executive session. So we're almost at an impasse in that regard. You know, unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure how we're going to proceed because we can't discuss that. Steve's next.
Without discussing what was said in the executive session, I can tell you what wasn't said. in the executive session. And that was, we were pursuing Nick Mulvey as an attorney to represent the school. So that was not said.
I can agree, as I was there was no discussion at all about any representation of the lawyer. In fact, it was quite the opposite. And what I can say is that there was no agreement to allow any sort of funding to defend the chieftain or anything.
Or can we make decisions in executive session? So that would be a violation of the rules, and I recall not violating the rules and make a decision in that executive session. And I'm wondering if we can hear from Lauren about what were the events that led up to hiring the lawyer. You may have been involved.
I have no information about hiring the attorney.
I asked Warren this, because I was confused when I first found out about the expense of the attorney and that there was a legal strategy. Deb was very direct in her response when I asked her about how I was thinking about it. And she said specifically the attorney, I have this email, was not defending the district's use of the chieftain's name, check out the user. And that she also said very specifically the board recommended Nick Letty as an attorney to represent the school district. I subsequently asked Warren about the process, how this town's being done, and whether in fact she recommended and her response was an emphatic no. In fact, after showing her the email, her response was, "This is a lie. This is a lie."
Please, the decorum of the meeting is not to not denigrate anyone. So just please refrain from using it.
Let's change it to, this is a misrepresentation.
So I'd still love to hear from you.
The only piece of this that I can make reference to is that when the appeal was filed and the attorney for the ALE reached out to all the complainants and the board, initially reached out to me because usually the superintendent would represent the board in cases. Because I had made clear to this board that I believe that the continued use of this name violates the policy. It's the reason I said I would leave, and that the TRS would stay as long as the TRS board asked me to stay. The only superintendent was found. So when the attorney reached out to me as the representative of the school board, my immediate response was, I can't do that. That's not something I can do. That you will need to talk to the board officers, to Deb Brown as the board chair. That ended my involvement in this.
What I can tell you is there are answers to all of these questions. This is just an improper place to have a discussion. These questions could all and were all going to be answered at the executive session that was planned at the last meeting. Deb has prepared information for you all. She has all of the updates. But there is no way I can give you information that's going to answer any of the questions that you're looking to have answered this evening in public session. We're at an impasse. You can make the statements you'd like to make, but there's no way that I can give you an answer that's going to answer your questions.
So to me, I agree with the public comment that keeping the mascot name or not is something that we need more warning for, and that probably shouldn't even be a special meeting, or at least not a fast meeting like this one needed to be. To me, what means we need to act quickly is the money. The money that is not going to that reading education and math education. And so what I would like to consider tonight is some sort of approach to stopping the money going to either changing the state policy or defending against the appeals, and just to not have any more money tied towards really anything about the mascot. I'm sure that wasn't a great way to say it, but that's what I'm interested in.
It would be my recommendation that the information is provided to you so that you can make an informed decision and vote. I think voting with truly not the information you need in front of you, how these things came about, where the money is going, what is happening. I believe you had wanted an update at the last meeting that these things were all planned. McLetty, who is the attorney that is currently engaged, was willing to come and share information actually free of charge so that everyone's up to speed. So, it would be my recommendation that you make an informed decision.
So I have not been on the board very long this time, but I was on the board for quite some time before, and it was always customary that decisions about legal representation came before the board, before the decision to obtain legal counsel. The superintendent before you came to this board, you have come to this board seeking approval for legal counsel, and I just am shocked that the board chair, it sounds like, and perhaps you and the board chair, I'm not sure who made the decision. I'm shocked that that decision was made without following the precedent ahead to come to the board in advance of spending what is minimally $10,000 now and probably more. And that's what's shocking to me. I would be happy to hear from legal counsel about their recommendation before we enter into an agreement with them. And I just don't know where the board chair got the authority to do that. I understand there isn't a prohibition in policy, but there's certainly a precedent, a long precedent set of the board chair not taking that authority. So I don't need a response. I just wanted to make that statement.
You don't want a response, I will not provide one.
You also have your hand.
Josh?
Thank you. So there's this block on our agenda, which is made available to anybody attending the meeting. In the block, it says board norms. That's a new block as of the last meeting, and I'm sure it was there on August 21st, which I regret to say was not here. In the block, it clearly says presume good intention, which we're all here to do. No surprises is the second item on this. So in the spirit of no surprises, and I phrased that in an email to Deb, CC'd Adrian, and I also got Laura on that. I was curious for some sort of update. Now, this is prior to last meeting. I said, I think the public deserves some sort of update on based on where we stand with this stuff, because I'm fielding questions that I can't answer. So Deb responded after about a week, and she said, sorry, there's just not much to do, but I'll be happy to do it. And literally, I think it was 2 days later, we got an article in the Chester Telegram, which clearly underpassed the board norm of no surprises. So in fact, I was actually surprised. And I don't know who else here was surprised. I'm going to show up hands, but 1, 2, 3. So apparently we have no surprise, no surprise, no surprise, no surprise. No,
I'm not.
we all knew it was
Don't
there.
count me.
We all knew it was coming, I guess. What I didn't know, and a few other hands didn't know, and I'm sure that the public didn't know. And if they did, well, good for them, no. But I know this, that I was elected on this with the spirit of no surprises. In fact, that's why I joined the board. I joined the board to ask Lauren Tierman, who was a new superintendent at the time. My reason was to increase communication from the top down, from the bottom up. And I think in 2 years, I may have achieved that goal until this point. So the point I'm trying to make is we might as well scratch off that item if we're not practicing it within ourselves. Show respect. It's a good one, and we're all doing that very well tonight, which is a great example, other than the folks on Zoom. That was disrespectful in a number of ways. We're collaborative. So working collaboratively is extremely important board norm and probably should be at the top. There's a lot of great minds here, a lot of great input. Now, while I can't say anything that we discussed in executive session, right, because I don't want to screw anybody up, this is a surprise. Who I guarantee you, well over half this group and the community, and to find out through a Chester Telegraph article is actually embarrassing. Now I'm looking at that and saying, is this real? I mean, they say no paper, just news. So then I have to ask Deb again, Deb, I really need to know what's happening. So now we have an executive session scheduled, and we're ready to discuss what's on the agenda. And that meeting lasted 7 minutes because we had a disagreement on what was properly going on. I've been educated now, and I followed Robert's rules very well from that point on. The meeting was warned properly, so the public knows. All right, Chester Telegraph did their job, as they have. There's another surprise there. So I'm asking tonight, I don't even know if I can make a motion for no surprises. But in the spirit of no surprises, and in the better interest of funds allocated to the students, which is the second reason I joined the board. I wanted to increase communication, remember that? Second reason I joined the board is because I wanted to help the students. The third reason is because I want to be fiscally responsible with this money. Cavendish, can I ask a question to anybody that worked on this playground?
Can we stay? on this
Sure,
for a
I'll
second,
stay on the-
please?
I'll stay on the
I just
topic.
feel we're kind
I'm
of
sure-
going off topic.
Sure that this $10,000+ could have been spent towards the students. That's why I'm here tonight, and that's why I'm speaking now. So my motion here tonight is to seize all funding and operations for Mick Letty and team.
Seats?
Stop,
Cease.
ceasing, and seize that money back would be good. You know, that's my motion. I want to cease all funding and operation for Mick Letty and team in regards to this subject. Yes.
You're not.
Can I just ask clarity on the motion? Is that, I don't know if that's proper protocol. So you're recommending, or the motion is to end funding, cease means end, right? End funding to legal counsel who are representing the board in the mascot. Right. That's the motion.
That's correct.
I second.
I just want to, so are you looking to not seek clarification or information from the lawyers prior to this? You want to make a decision without having information from them?
But I think the procedure is, if somebody seconds it, then we can have to.
That's what I'm thinking. Nope.
I seconded it.
Sorry.
So
So
then,
this is time for discussion. So I'm asking a question. Yes.
Okay, go ahead. So the motion has been entertained and you're asking questions.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
So my question is again, are you looking to make a vote without having the full picture of the information that you're looking to actually make the vote from the executive session and an update from the lawyer? Is that, I don't know whose hand just went up first.
You
Uh,
could-
actually,
I think the
Jane was
question was to you though. so
Okay,
you're
all
leading.
right.
It's
Yes,
to the board.
Oh,
all right, I'll answer my portion of that. In the spirit of no surprises, I have given folks lots of time to answer the questions I need prior to this. I haven't gotten one answer back. In fact, I was honest with the answer. It's in public record. You can pull it. There's really not much to tell. So I'm going to go with the fact that, well, there's no surprises, a board norm, and there's not much to tell. So I guess that executive session really didn't have a lot of detail. So
I think there's disagreement on what happened in the executive session, and I'll just leave it at that. I would say that I'm happy to entertain a conversation after we cease the agreement with the legal counsel and get legal counsel as a full board and make an informed decision. But at this point, we've not been given the opportunity to make an informed decision. It's been made for us, so it needs to end in order to stop spending all of our money or a bunch of our money without us having the ability to make an informed decision. So if the board chair wants to put it back on an agenda in the future for us to make an informed decision about it, I would be happy to be involved in that conversation. Whether I disagree or not, having the conversation and the process is what we're here for. One person should not be making, one or two people should not be making the decision on their own.
I just want to make sure for clarity that you understand that it was not one or two people making the decision for the board. Unfortunately, again, I am not going to expose what was said in executive session, but having statements made that cannot be refuted is being a little bit muzzled, so I just want to make sure that it's not what's being stated as fact. These are the statements of opinion. Sorry, go ahead, Mr.
I think we also need to clarify that no surprise is like going home and turning on WCAX News and hearing we're going to vote on a mascot. Somebody tipped off WCAX. Surprise! Anyone? Anyone have any idea who that was? First time.
Voting on the mascot.
What I can tell you in a very, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to comment back on your comment about our comments being not fact. It's true for yours. I mean, we were in the meeting and we all apparently walked away with different impressions of that meeting. It's not saying anybody's a liar, it's just we're all at a different.
And that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that it was not the decision of one or two people for the board.
As
And in regards to the funding, what I can tell you, and this way no surprises, Josh, is so Sean Cunningham and Deb Delto both use the Freedom of Information Act to request the bill. Both of them will provide redacted bills, which has the date, the time, and the charge. Approximately just shy of $2,500 happened prior to the vote and any involvement of the board. Subsequent 7,200, I believe, 7,300, and I'm rounding, so I'm not being specific, has happened since, just so that people are clear on the numbers. Yes, you got something else to say?
Yeah, so just going back to your point, I do want to vote on the issue before we have any more information. Since we weren't able to get that information fast enough to make decisions about it.
The information couldn't have been shared with you in any other form, just so you know. It can't be put out in an email, Josh. She can't answer you in that, you know, there could have been, I think if I remember right, the response was, you know, she offered you to give her a call.
Point of order. My understanding of Robert's rules is that the chair is supposed to step out of their role as chair if they're going to engage in debate. And they're supposed to be a neutral.
There, I'm just trying, yep, you're right. This is not my normal space.
I know.
And I am
With all
trying, and I am
respect.
trying to, I am trying to make sure that what is being said is factual, but yes, I will prohibit myself from answering any further questions.
If that's all right, I wanted to share with the board. I had a phone call earlier today from Chris Leopold, who was part of the law firm that Nicolette works for. Who, I'm sorry. That I had a phone call today from Chris Leopold, who is part of the law firm that Nicolette works for, who wanted to let me know that the legal team that includes him were available to speak to the entire board at any point that was scheduled in order to go over what is happening, since the legal advice belongs to the board as a whole, and also to suggest that this board could appoint a couple of representatives to have a meeting outside of an executive session, because you wouldn't be in a meeting in the same way that currently the board officers have been having conversations, that a couple of representatives from the board could meet with me and with the attorneys, so that the attorneys could, and the language he used was, review the appeals that are currently pending for the AOE and talk about next steps. They said they would do that without a charge because they understand that that is a concern for the board. I can't say, after hearing from Chris, that I would recommend canceling all representation in the middle of the legal proceeding. I can recommend that we not pay any more money for it, but they're willing to have a discussion about that. That, of course, is better with the entire board in executive session. Scheduling that is a challenge. And if this board wanted to send 2 or 3 representatives, to have that discussion. You can in fact share information that is shared from the attorney that is not discoverable through the Open Records Act, or if it's advice from counsel. So that's the message. Available and willing to meet with the whole board in executive session, or they are available to meet at the time that can be scheduled with a couple of board representatives, if this board wanted to choose representatives. The last thing I would say is just to go back to whatever was or wasn't said in an executive session. Decisions can't be made in executive session. One of the things that people have asked for is how the decision was made. It wasn't made in executive session. It can't have been.
There was no votes in executive session, correct? Any more discussion?
I have a question. Does anybody recall having a board vote on that question of hiring an attorney to represent us in this matter?
Josh?
I only recall, so please clarify again. I only recall allowing the AOE to make the decision. And that was a board decision. And I will say from several of the public comments here and there scattered throughout Facebook, that is what also several public attendees also thought. It was in the hands of the AOE is where the board went. So again, the lawyer bit was a huge surprise. I'm going to say a large part.
Any discussion? I cannot provide this information.
You could step out. You could step out of your role as chair and then participate in the debate, and someone else could run.
Even stepping out of my role as chair, I still can't divulge information. Executive session, and then, to have a public discussion about anything discussed between.
Understood.
Any further discussion?
To Josh's point about leading in the hands of the AOA.
Steve, could you speak up?
Sure.
Thanks.
To Josh's point about leading in the hands of the I'm confident in the AOE, confident in the law, and I'm happy to leave it in their hands. Personally, I don't see the need for this extravagant expenditure. My preference would be to terminate the relationship and leave it in the hands of the AOE. And, barring explanations, without revealing it, there was no explanation. And no explanation from the chair. There's nothing here. The AOE is perfectly capable. So, I'd like to make a motion to terminate. We have ceased payment. We have not terminated.
Let's vote on the first one.
Okay, you're right.
What was the original?
I'd be happy to read it for you.
Hold on a second. Sorry.
One more discussion item. We just had information from our superintendent who recommended to us all something, she is a lawyer. We've been now asking her very, very closely what we should do, what direction we should take with this area. She just recommended to all of us. If you did not hear her,
I heard her.
okay, I'm just asking if you
Absolutely.
heard what she said.
Totally.
She is a lawyer.
Yep.
And she explained to us, I would highly recommend you stay with the lawyer.
Respectfully, I disagree.
That's okay. I'm just speaking as to what she recommended we do for this item. That's it. Thank you.
And if I could clarify that that is, my recommendation is based on your being able to hear from the attorneys rapidly. They would be available to speak with someone while no additional charges are happening within the next couple of days, if you would want to.
That goes, that, my last item, that goes to my point about the executive.
It seems as though with Josh's motion, we could also still have the lawyers come, because we can always re-enter a contact with them if we agree. So we can pass the motion to be sure that the board is no longer paying and no longer entering into a legal strategy by which we don't know anything about. And then schedule a rapid meeting where we can actually become informed and then make that decision to review.
Or you did say they would not charge us for that.
Yes.
For that meeting.
Further discussion? So, could you please repeat the motion for?
Mr. Schroeder moved to cease all funding and operation from Nick Letty and team regarding this subject. He's then clarified that this subject meant in regards to the mascot. Dr. Sanders, second.
So is there any further discussion on the motion at all? So,
I just would like to clarify. So an affirmative vote means we cease with that.
so, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Do you want me to do that? Steve?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Jeff?
No.
Rick?
No.
Scott?
No.
Josh?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Lois?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
And vote is 6-3 in favor.
Motion's passed. Alright, so discussion as action has happened on our new business. Next line item is, yes.
I think we should take a vote on setting up this meeting that one is that the attorneys have. Well, or to make a plan to make this happen. So we can be informed. The suggestion from the attorneys was to appoint 2 or 3 people to, rather than having to wait for a second, to share that information.
Is there a reason for 2 to 3 or can it be 4?
And it could be,
So we do 4 of them, it's all 4 times.
Yeah. Okay.
I just didn't know if there was a legal reason.
It's just easier to schedule than just trying to make sure that he has heard the message, but there are members of the board who feel, there are members of the board who have not been informed about what is happening, who want to be informed. I did not ask him why he just said 2. I can hazard the guess that with 2, you can make the meeting happen. If you have 5, it is true you wouldn't have a quorum, but it's much harder to schedule a time for 7 or 8 people than it is for 3.
And then, sorry, I have a- well, I'm thinking in regards to making sure that Scott's point is correct, that all 4 towns are represented. So 4, if, with that being said, that would require people being very available, but also would there be any issue if it was all 4 are required, but the entire board is welcome?
If the entire board is welcome, then you need to set an executive
okay,
session
that's what
and you
I
need to
know.
schedule a meeting. If you're going to have more than a couple of people, because otherwise
4 is not a quorum.
you and Deb could not have had conversations with Nick if you were having.
I just wanted to know if that was the reason why it was a reduced number, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that my preference would be to do it as an entire board with a warrant meeting. Understanding your preference.
Is there further discussion on that?
I agree, and I would also recommend not only Nick Letty, but Chris Leopold.
That's what he's offering.
simultaneously. Yeah, I just want to make sure that was clear.
They have that firm has a lengthy relationship, many years going with the SU, with both districts. They represent us in negotiations, and I would like to continue that positive relationship.
It's Josh.
And Steve, to your point earlier.
Yes,
Josh.
I think you said yes, Chuck.
Yeah, but.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
to
it's
Steve's
not
point
together,
earlier.
internal.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll look at it, see anything else.
Well.
To the
it-
point
it's just
earlier
trying to stay within what we're
by
supposed to be doing.
member Prime. Okay, I just can't look at it.
You
I
just
can't
need to
use this
address,
person.
the rule is you address the chair. You're not addressing
Oh,
individual
all
board
right.
members. You said you were
Sorry.
schooled in Robert's rules. Come on.
No, I didn't say that. No, I didn't say that. I just do I have just.
I'm
did a
just
little
trying
reading.
to keep as much decorum as possible, please. That's all.
Should I go chairperson?
Whatever you'd like to do, Josh.
Chairperson Williams, to Steve Ronnie's earlier, I respectfully disagree with completely removing at this time the representation from this firm. And it is only because we do have a long-standing history in this firm. And I'd like to explore, listen to, since we spent the money, for what they have to say at this point as an entire board, rather than dismiss them immediately altogether. I want to hear it. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any good? Steve?
the firm has a great reputation. Without getting into detail.
Can you speak up a little?
Okay.
I'm getting messages that people can't hear.
The firm has great reputation. Without getting into a lot of detail regarding the executive session, I'm concerned about our representation. If this is falling entirely on Letty's shoulders, I think that's something we should have known about. I think that the discussion around retaining should have fallen.
So.
Sorry. Do we need to take action on that, or can we, I mean, we don't have agreement. We have some people who want 4 and we want some people who want full board. Is that something we have to take action on? I make a motion that the superintendent schedule a full board meeting with an executive session to hear from legal counsel free of charge around.
Second. Yes.
Can I
Ask for clarity, please do, because I do not
Are
make
you
motions right now.
recommending that happen as soon as possible?
I'm comfortable with it happening as we can schedule. but, as soon as possible.
I would like to recommend that we at least get past the week that our chair's daughter is getting married, so that she can be here, please.
Absolutely.
Full board. So the motion on the table is to schedule an executive session meeting with both lawyers present as soon as possible.
After this week? Which means I will talk to them, see when they are available. They're eager, Chris is eager to make themselves available. See what we can schedule. I'll do it through Google Poll as soon as I have some time.
There's a motion second.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. All right. Next order of business is the second round of public comments. Josh, could you?
Yes.
There's not much. we can do.
You want to announce it?
Yeah. And again, please remember, this is not for public engagement. Comments to the board, 2 minutes each. First name on the board is, I'm sorry, on the roster is Delta from Springfield again.
Well, I won't read the names because I realize there's so many of them, it will take all my 2 minutes to name the names of the kids that have worked on this over the years. But I just wanted to say that we are setting a precedent right now. This has never happened in Vermont before, Act 152. And that's why it's important for me to see it through. Rutland, Danville, even Brattleboro complied immediately with the law and changed their mascot. And now we have to see this through as the process of appealing to the AOE. And I just want to say one last thing, and that is as far as talking about leadership in students. I am teacher, and the leadership that was shown by the students who worked on this issue in the civic process is what you want to see. They were at every meeting here. They repeatedly and respectfully asked for this change, and their voices were silenced. They left this school feeling they worked for nothing, and that is shameful. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you. Next name on the list is Randy Miles. From
Chester. I'd like to ask if I could see some information on those 43 Native American tribes who make claim to the word chieftain, because every research place that I saw did not. Do they use it? Absolutely. Every group does. So there may be 43 that took the name, going directly to them. I think that may not be true. So I'd like to see some information on that. The second thing I want to say is, from the start of this board has gone through a lot of things. Some very disturbing ways members handle themselves, words that were said directly to the board, to others. This has been a long, hard journey, and it's been awful to watch and be a part of from this point. This board needs to get its act together and start acting like a board or be dismissed. I'm really appalled at this because we do have more important things to worry about. We should be staying out of this and let the state handle it at this point in time. We overstep our grounds, and this is what happens. We get into a situation like this. Let's work together and make this happen and do the right thing. Let's use common sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like the next name is Roy Spalding from Chester.
The article referencing the $10,000, which was $8,900. I don't believe that would even be in existence if they'd let the vote go to the state like it was supposed to. I believe it was the appeals that pushed the money up. And I think that's a part that's been left out of the whole scenario, is it was voted and then it went to the state and it was going to be up to the state. The appeals are what cost the money. And now it seems that they're pointing the finger on the wrong side. So it's the appeals that cost the $8,927, whatever it was, not the initial vote, that we were not in violation of the mandatory, of the mascot. So, plenty of clarity.
Thank you. Looks like the next name is that Carrie King? You're from Chester?
Yes, I'm Carrie King. I'm from Chester. I've spoken with you all before. I'm one of the 3 complainants that feels that the Green Mountain School Board has violated the law that was passed by the legislators of Vermont and then turned into policy by the Agency of Education. In January, when the board had to adopt that policy, and you did, and you retired the chieftain at that time, then in February, it was reinstated. That was when I felt it was a violation of the policy that you had passed in January. So following the policy, as is my right, I filed an appeal with the AOE. I don't have any legal representation. I've spoken to you repeatedly about why I filed that appeal. We talked about that. We had our hearings. The board decided to vote and say you did not violate the policy, but you did not give a basis for that decision. There was no evidence. There was nothing in that answer that explained the justification for maintaining that that mascot does not violate the policy. So I'm unclear. I know that you want to kick it down the road to the AOE. I've heard this said. That costs money. It costs time. I don't have a lawyer. I'm using a tremendous amount of time, energy, and reflection to get this point across. Now, as we've been working with the AOE, I can tell you anything that Nick Letty has said because he said it to me. It's not public record. I have the defense of hearing that he has submitted to the 3 complainants. If anyone would like to read it, I'd be happy to share it with you. It's not top secret. We wanted to say, hey, we want to have a sit down at this table. That's what we've asked. That's what, you have asked. Okay,
Ms. King, your time has expired.
Thank you. We would love to wrap this up. It's done, tired, and fried. Thank you. Put it to bed.
The next name.
Follow the law.
The next name on the list is Sarah Stoll from Proctorsville.
Hi, I'm Sarah Stoll from Proctorsville, and I want to just say, Martha Maska, great idea. Clearly, this is controversial. Clearly, people hold either very near and dear the chieftains, or we don't want the chieftains. And if for 20 years it's been hard for our kids, I mean, my kids came here. I have one kid who couldn't stand going to pep rallies because it was hard and was never sure what to do. Another kid wasn't sure if wearing a cowboy hat, because they happen to have a bunch of green cowboy hats, was okay or not okay. We want to have some school spirit. We want to support our athletic teams. We want to support our theatrical program. We want to support our mathematicians, our junior iron chefs. Let's come up with a new mascot. Let's not represent with people. I'd also like to say to those board members and members here in the community who have chosen to pretty directly insinuate that this cost is somehow the responsibility of citizens participating in a democracy, the same way that you all participated by coming to many meetings and suggesting that you love the chieftains, it's a pretty low blow. We're trying to teach our children about civic engagement, and this is the process, and they are following the process. And the board here, the members, I want to congratulate those of you who've ceased payment at the moment and ask for clarification, because that is also really important. And I'm impressed with your willingness to hear and listen to the lawyers. And I'll be very interested to hear what you have to say after you have done that. But I think that we should be celebrating our kids and celebrating the folks in the community, including those with whom I disagree, who have participated in the process and made their points. And hallelujah, I hope we retire this thing and come up. I love Green Mountain, what is it, Martha? Green Mountain Lions. I think it's awesome. I would call us the Catamounts, but it doesn't sound as cool.
Chemo Valley TV has their hand up, but it's not for this. They're wondering why they can't. So, I'm sure. But at the moment, I don't have any other public comment. Hands.
Sorry, I walked in late. Can I be added? Hi, my name is Zachary McNaughton. I'm from Proctorsville. I was watching at home when, the chaos broke out. I just want to say that was pretty embarrassing to have both my kids with me, hoping to introduce them to how this process works. I'd highly recommend that the board take a closer look. I think Zoom is very important. I don't want Zoom to be eliminated. I think the board should take a very close look at making sure someone is running the management tools at all times, because there are buttons that just mute everybody and stop all cameras at once. There should be somebody running that at all times, making sure that that is happening. And then also with regards to the other conversation about the chieftains, I've heard all of the arguments. I think, this is a divisive issue. The only way it goes away is if it goes away. And I'd love to see the board take action and fix the will of the board, which was that it was not in compliance with the policy, but there were all kinds of glitches that night. It would be nice just to hear a revote and to have the will of the board actually heard so that we can move forward. Thank you.
So the public comment portion is concluding. Next item is our next meeting dates. Next one is tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the Jackson Board Stone Room for our all-board retreat. Following that is the GM USC regular meeting at 6 p.m. October 19th, 2023. And yes, to be determined.
So if there are items we would like to see on the agenda, how do we propose items for future agenda?
Questions or discussions? Any motion to adjourn? Anybody in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
No, we're.